So they mentioned...
How was lunch? Yes, you guys look very...
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. And as I said, we've had the opportunity to get to know each other and do events together. And so I do consider them good friends as well as co-workers. And I have had such a great time, working with you, Bret, on conventions and doing things. And Bill and I have done many Disney Vacation Club cruises together. So I thought it'd be fun to share just some of the stories about working with the two of you, and also just telling us your background, a little bit about yourselves. And I think I'll start with you, Bret.
Okay.
I mean, I know that you started as an artist and then got into voice work. So you want to tell us a little bit about your background in art?
Sure, yeah. Well, I grew up, my dream was to be a Disney animator. I, at a very young age, started drawing by drawing Mickey Mouse. My dad and I would watch the classic cartoons, and we'd sit on the floor and he'd pause them and we'd draw the characters together. And so that was really, my induction into the art world was via Disney. So I pursued that dream all through grade school, high school, ended up going to Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida, majoring in illustration, all because that school offered an internship or had a relationship with Disney via the illustration department to get an internship at Disney Animation. And so I was like, that's what I'm doing. Disney Animation kind of took a turn while I was in school with thanks to a little movie called Toy Story. They kind of switched from hand-drawn to doing more computer animation, and that wasn't really my thing. So anyway, I left school and got a job with Hallmark Greeting Cards. And I was an artist in their illustration department there for 5 years. And then that's how I got into voice acting. Not the typical route, but a friend of mine who works at Pixar told me that they were auditioning for an understudy to at that point, voice of Mickey Mouse, Wayne Allwine. And having never done voice acting or never even having aspired to be a voice actor, I thought, well, clearly I'm qualified, so I'm gonna audition. And I just took a chance because I loved Mickey so much. And again, it was my dream to work for the Disney company. And I just thought, why not? Really, I thought it would be a really cool story to tell at dinner parties, to be like, one time I auditioned to be Mickey Mouse. For some reason, I feel like people would get more of a kick out of that story than when I tell them I am Mickey Mouse. They kind of go, okay. But anyway, so that's how I got into voice acting, a very random route. I auditioned thanks to that friend who told me about it, and the rest is history. I can go into it, but I know we have limited time, so.
Yeah, we want to hear from Bill too. I want to hear tell the folks how you got it. You got into a little bit more traditional way because you were already doing voice work.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a traditional way to get this type of a job. Everybody's journey in voice acting is totally different. Mine, I grew up in a little town in south central Kansas, and I was just one of those weird kids that loved cartoons, loved the movies, and was always at the theater. And on Saturday morning I was watching cartoons, and as a lot of kids do, they just try and do the voices. And I was mostly exposed in the early days to like the Warner Brothers characters, and so I would practice like, Bugs Bunny, oh brother, longhorn leghorn, big old chicken, that kind of thing. And of course, the Disney characters, which I didn't see too often, I saw it on the Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights. Goofy was my favorite, so I would practice that. And, "Where's Helby, Dad? Hi, Mom." I'd run around the house doing these weird voices. And as I got older, I was a very shy kid in the beginning. As I got older, my friends would put me up to like phone pranks and doing voices that I would learn. And I would drive through places like, Burger King, and they'd order in a weird voice like, "I'd like a Whopper with cheese, and Arnold the pig would like a Coca-Cola." And, they'd look out, and it would be kind of fun. Never thought it would be a career. Long story short, I went to the University of Kansas, got a degree in journalism, and kicked around for about 3 years as a disc jockey at little radio stations throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. And just out of boredom, and we could do anything that we wanted at that time, I would create characters. And at the time, there was a DJ named Wolfman Jack who was on the air.
And Wolfman had the Boy Scout like this.
And I would just bring him on as guest, like,
Hey, Bill, what's going on?
hey, Wolfman, it's great to have you on the show today. You know, I didn't know there were anything like copyrights or proprietary. I did that for a number of years, and then in 1982 got into stand-up comedy in Dallas, Texas. And because I had developed a kind of repertoire of different celebrity impressions that I did, and that met with some pretty good success, and got married in Dallas to my wife Jennifer, who's here. We've been married for 30 and some years. And I quit my job as an electronic technician that I had at the time to go into stand-up comedy full-time in 1984. Or actually 82 is when I started doing stand-up. At 84, when we got married, the day before we got married, I gave up my job as an electronic technician to become a comedian, which thrilled her parents. You know. Long story short, a couple of years later, on the advice of an agent, they said, well, you do all these voices, why don't you go out to Hollywood? So I got an apartment in Hollywood and left Jennifer in Dallas, so I was commuting for a while as a stand-up. And after about 4 months in Los Angeles, there was a call come out to find out the best voices of the characters for Disney, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, you know. And I said, well, I can do a Goofy pretty well. He's my favorite character. And out of about 1,100 people that tried out, they liked mine. And that was back and started my first job with Disney January 23rd, 1987. So I've been doing this almost 35 years. As long as I can still go whoosh, I guess they'll keep me around.
Well, the question is, can you still do the Goofy yelling?
Oh yeah, the Goofy yell, yeah. I always have to do that. When I do that live, I do it twice. Once for the engineers, I say, this is loud. And so they'll, okay, and then I go, and then they go, oh, okay, let me turn down the volume, and do it again, and I always have to do it twice.
And also, of course, not just Goofy, but you're
Oh,
doing
yes.
another famous dog.
Absolutely. We have a tendency to forget Pluto, but he's just as important, and there, that's the Pluto bark, and I've been doing that. I can do that in all languages, in German, Swedish, I'm multi-language in Pluto.
But we don't ask you to do Goofy in Japanese. That would be a
No,
little too much.
I have someone doing that.
And bringing that up, that's kind of an interesting thing too. If you don't know how hard it is to do voice work, these guys have to act off of other actors who aren't in the same room. And also they have to make the characters sound the way Disney fans intended to be. So Bret, you want to talk a little bit about following in the footsteps of an earlier Mickey voice?
Yeah, who are you referring to?
Well, the guy that started Mickey's voice, and then
Walt,
everybody that passed
Walt
his
Disney, yeah, that's slightly intimidating. Because, yeah, I'm sure you all know, Walt was the original voice of Mickey Mouse. And yeah, you know, again, huge Disney fan growing up, so I like to say that I had the advantage of being somebody who was aware of the legacy in front of me. It wasn't just a matter of making a silly voice, or, you know, and in voiceover we encounter that all the time, people who say, I can do my friends tell me I do crazy voices, I should get into voice actor, and that's part of it, don't get us wrong. But you know, especially with these characters who are sometimes referred to as legacy characters, there is a literal legacy behind them. There's a history, there's a story, and there's a soul, and that comes from the people who have voiced them previous to us. So yeah, Walt Disney, you know, Mickey was Walt, Walt was Mickey. It's intimidating, but I'm glad that I had the awareness that I did of not only Mickey's history, but Walt's history. You know, I sat there watching the presentation you just gave about the archives, and Becky knows this. I'm a huge fan of the Disney archives because I'm a history buff. I know Bill is too. We love history, but for me as a Disney fan, what I really sunk my teeth into was the history and the story of Walt. You know, I loved all the IP that was coming out in the movies and stuff, but anytime I got a chance to see a photo of Walt that wasn't often seen, or read a story about him and his journey and the struggles he faced, like that's the stuff, even as a kid, I was obsessed with. So that definitely came into play in my understanding of who Mickey is and what motivates him. So yeah, you know, stepping into the role, I was totally aware of Walt's legacy. The second voice of Mickey was Jimmy McDonald, a sound effects wizard at the studio who created so much of the Foley that you probably have witnessed and listened to over the years but weren't even aware of, how'd they make that crackling fire sound in Bambi? Well, that was Jimmy, he had his little tricks. And then the third voice of Mickey was Wayne Allwine, who had done it 32 years before I stepped into the role. He worked with Jimmy McDonald on the studio lot and actually started in the mailroom at the Walt Disney Studios. So again, these guys that came before me voicing Mickey have this wonderful history, not only with Mickey, but with the Disney company and just bringing in an appreciation of all that goes into it. And so I think, what I already knew at the time helped, but what I've learned since through the Disney archives and just through the experiences I've had, and like Becky mentioned, the people she's met, I get to call a Disney legend Bill Farmer my friend now. Like that's crazy, and that's definitely been a benefit in this role of just getting to learn from Bill's experience and his advice and whatnot. So your question about people who come before, it's intimidating, but it's been such a great learning opportunity. So I had another thought and I lost it because I got distracted by the sparkly chandelier.
Well, also, you had the opportunity to work with Russi Taylor, who was the voice of Minnie Mouse, and I think she and Wayne Allwine, who you just mentioned, had the most romantic Disney love story there is. They were married. They met doing the voices, and Bill, you worked very closely with both of them.
Oh yes,
for many
from
years.
the very beginning. They both were in bad marriages. They got the job as Mickey and Minnie, met each other, fell in love, got divorced from their respective spouses, got married, and were Mickey and Minnie for the 25 years that I knew them. And they were such a wonderful couple and worked so well together in live performances. Wayne was a great musician, and he'd have his ukulele, and he would do duets with Russi when we would do radio broadcasts down at Walt Disney World, and they were the epitome of Mickey and Minnie. It was like typecasting these characters. It wasn't just a sound alike; they were embodying that, and that doesn't bode well for me being
Bill trips a lot.
Yes, I trip a lot. I fall down.
Yeah. That is one of the things they told me that at the very beginning. They said, you're going to meet your fellow cast members, and just so you know, they are just like their characters.
Yes, yeah.
And I heard Russi come walking out the hall,
typecasting,
and she sounded just like Minnie, and then I met you, and I think you had a cup of tea or something in your hand, you went to give me a hug,
yeah,
and it just kind of went
spilled
all over
everything.
and I was like, wow.
It's a goofy curse that comes along with doing this job.
Well, and it's so fun because you do work with the other voice characters, and you do have to often do the scripts alone, right? You work
Most
with
of the time now, yes. And it makes it a little difficult because we rely so much on the director. For example, if I'm talking to Mickey and Mickey's not with me, I have to know, well, how far away is Mickey? Do I say, where's Mickey? Let's go outside. Well, that's great if he's standing right here, but if he's 50 feet away, where's Mick? Let's go outside. Or the situation, what's going on? Is that they want to go outside and have a tea or something like that? Or let's go and have a crumpet. Or is the room on fire? Then you might say, come on, Mick, let's get out of here. It totally affects the way you act it. And the acting is the most important part of it. You're not only voice, and as Bret was saying, people come up all the time and say, people tell me I have a great voice, I should be a voice actor. And that's kind of like saying, I have a great guitar, I should be a guitarist. No, it's how to play. This is your instrument. You learn how to play it through acting. And that's the biggest secret about voice acting and what's necessary.
Right. It's interesting, you don't just do films either. When you go to the theme parks, these are the folks that you hear in the parade or in a stage show, things like that. We talk a little bit, Bret, about some of the interesting things they've had you do at the parks or in merchandise or some of the other things that you've done.
That's usually one of the first questions I get is someone will introduce me and say, Bret's the voice of Mickey Mouse, and I go, oh, for like TV shows? And I'll say, well, yeah, but also the theme parks, merchandise, video games, albums, corporate events, talking crock pots, like I've done it all.
All of the above.
All of the above. The Apple Watch,
Bret and I have a great story about that. We were on a train together, and I had just gotten my first Apple Watch, and you had yours on.
Yeah.
Tell me what you told me about that.
People, when they find out I did the Apple Watch, they're like, do you get paid every time that thing talks? And I said, if that were the case, I'd be sitting there talking to you like this. It's 105, it's 105, it's 105,
Oh.
it's 105, it's 106, it's 106.
Well, you'd own that train by now.
Yes, I would hope so. But yeah,
Hopefully the technology has improved over the years. I did a very early talking watch. I had to go up to San Francisco and get in a booth and go, the time is 12:01 a.m. The time is 12:02 a.m. The time is 12:02. You get nuts by about 3 o'clock.
no, the technology has not changed. I sat in the
It's
booth
still the
and I
same
said
way.
every hour and every minute, and at the time there was some fun, encouraging exercise, things like, you hit your exercise ball. Good job, pal. Get off the couch. You're being lazy.
Boys are the toughest. Yeah.
But we work on everything. I mean, I'm not joking when I say talking crock pot. I did like a rice cooker or crock pot. I don't even know who wants that.
It's probably a Japanese.
Your rice is done. Like,
Yeah.
weird stuff. I've done stuff for diapers. Yeah, but the theme, I always say the theme parks are some of my favorite things. Like, I'm a huge Fantasmic fan, and when Fantasmic in Disneyland got kind of amped up a few years ago, I got to re-record all of Fantasmic, and so that was spectacular. Any parade is fun, Disney on
Parades
Ice,
are fun, yeah.
the cruise ships. It's always mind-boggling what I'm getting called in to do, and oftentimes we don't know. They'll
We
say,
never know,
"Are
yeah,
you
find
free
out.
for tomorrow at 2:00?" And you walk in and.
Okay, we're doing a toy. We're
Hey,
doing a TV show.
we're doing a Christmas album.
Right.
Great. I hope I can sing.
Oh, that's the other thing, is that they have to sing often. You've
Oh,
done
yes.
some albums, haven't you, both?
Oh yeah, we got one coming out soon. I think it's like from the what is it, like Crooners or American Songbook or something. I don't forget what we sang.
Sometimes it kind of comes in and just leaves, so what do we do?
Well, it's like people asking you if you have one of every product. It's like you
Yeah.
have to take it in and then let it go. Otherwise, you got a
Right.
whole lot of crazy stuck in here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they all do blend together. After a while, it all merges together into
Absolutely.
one memory.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've said, "Oh boy," or "Hiya, pal, it's me, Mickey Mouse." You'd think that'd be library?
Yeah, you'd think they
But-
would. Yeah, I always figured that they would do a library of laughs, like,
Yeah.
or something like that. But no, every time,
Every session,
over and over and over.
every session they'll say, "Okay, we're gonna do a laugh tape." We get a laugh tape, and it's like, "Okay." You got it? And we move on.
Using that forever.
But we're happy to do it every time because it's good to go in and get paid. So
Yeah, there you go. That's the bottom line anyway of any job. But it's got to be a pretty fun job.
no,
It's a blast.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a blast. It's a dream come true. It really is.
Yeah.
And there's just the people you meet are the friendliest. Disney has been like a family, unlike any other studio that I've worked with. It is a family. These are not just coworkers; they're our friends
Yeah.
and family, and
Yeah.
that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I mean, when we showed up here today, or yesterday, I guess, and I was seeing all the D23 folks and the archive staff, I mean, it's like I had a huge smile on my face because we haven't seen each other for so long.
It's been
And
quite a while,
and
over a
we're-
year.
We're so lucky to get to do events like this frequently, well, in past years, and I know we'll get back to it, but yeah, no, well said, Bill. I mean, we are a family, and it's a joy to, represent what we know so many people love that we also love.
Because they're big fans too, just as much as we are. And one thing too, to get a little more serious here, one of the things that we were able to do a few years back was to honor Bill, particularly, as one of our Disney Legends. And you saw the recreation of the Disney Legends Plaza, and that's one of my favorite programs at Disney. And so Bill is an official Disney Legend. I'm
I
sure Bret
am.
will be at some point.
2009.
But can you tell us just a little bit about, your Disney
Well,
Legend? And
Our Disney Legend ceremony was the first in front of the public at the D23 convention. Before that, it had been on the lot. And so we had like 4,500 people there. And I got to meet some of the other people that got Tony Anselmo, the voice of Donald. We had Robin Williams, got his Legend Award. Betty White. mean, all these wonderful people you're hanging around, and Bob Iger, gave me the statue, and I got to put my hands in the cement, which is now in Disney Legends Plaza, and in brass and everything. And it's surreal, but it is so. It's like, I feel like Sally Field. You like me? You really like me? After all this time, it was such a great honor, and it just, to see your hands up with other luminaries that you just admired over the years. It's just incredible, and I never take it for granted. I'm always so honored. And it was an amazing day that I'll never forget.
That's great. I hope, Bret, you'll be there soon.
I hope so.
We'll look into that.
Did you put it in good words?
I'll see what I can do. I'm the head of the Legends Committee, so maybe it might happen.
I started June of 2009, and then the expo was probably August of that same year. So I hadn't met Bill yet, but I got to sneak into the back of the Legends ceremony. I sat in the very top row, I'll never forget, and I watched you get your award, and I was just like, wow, he's so cool. I hope I get to meet him.
You've learned otherwise since then.
And now I have a totally different impression that I'll save for D24. It's a Steal a Jeffrey joke. But no, I just remember watching it. It was so cool. So I'm glad that even though we weren't friends then, I got to be a part of it.
Yeah. And now you're part of the family.
And Rusty and Wayne were also made Disney Legends a little earlier than that.
1 year before.
Yeah, 1 year before. So they are legendary too. So we love to it's kind of a special little club to be a member of. D23 is a special club, and Club 33 is a special club. But I think probably the Disney Legends family is probably the most exclusive Disney club
Yes,
there is.
yes, I would say that.
And we were so happy to make that happen with you. So I think I wanted to just see if there was any new projects coming up that you could talk about. I don't know what you're allowed to share or not, but if there's anything new that you've done recently or have coming up that you can share with these folks.
We continue with Mickey's Funhouse. We continue with, on Disney Plus, we have all sorts of series. We have, Roadster Racers. We have Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which has been on since 2006 and is still on every day. That's incredible. I have a show called Amphibia, where I play a totally different character named Hop Hop, who's a frog, an older patriarch frog in that series. So I'm happy to sometimes step away from Goofy and get to do other characters as well. I have a show that's called It's a Dog's Life with Bill Farmer on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen it, I got to executive produce that with my wife and the idea was I was going to step out from behind the microphone to find out about real working dogs rather than these animated dogs. So I got to go around the country and find out about dogs that have unusual jobs, and in the process got to get buried in snow in Telluride, Colorado, and get rescued by the avalanche rescue dogs. Or to go to Hawaii and find out about the dogs that keep snakes from worming their way into Hawaii in the bumpers of cars and everything, or that protect the nene geese, which are the Hawaiian state bird, or dogs that find other dogs that are lost, and all of these wonderful dogs that have incredible jobs. And we were able to feature that in a series. So if you haven't ever seen that, check it out on Disney Plus.
I think my favorite moment in that is when you met a dog who sniffed whale poop.
That was episode number 1. We actually followed some killer whales off of British Columbia and followed them because they need to find the poop of the whales to study how they're doing, what they're eating, are they healthy, that kind of thing. People can't find this as well as dogs can, and they have a little dog named Eva, actually, who is I think she was a pit bull, and what was she? Jack Russell Terrier pit bull that can find whale poop. You've got to check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And I'll take another shameless plug. While you're watching Disney Plus, watch It's a Dog's Life, but also check out Pop Culture.
Yes.
And because we filmed some episodes around the archives there. So you can watch that on Disney Plus as well.
And then stay tuned for my show, It's a Rodent's Life. Follow me as I go and exterminate mice around the country.
Stay away from track. Yeah.
His co-star is going to be Remy.
Yes. That should be fun, actually.
Yeah, it would be. We got to talk about this. I made a list. One of the things that we do at the archives is make lists of everything. So I have lists of Disney dogs, lists of Disney cats. Not just chronologies and things, but caged characters in Disney films or babies or films about time, whatever it is. But I do have a list of Disney rodents that I put together.
Okay.
And rodents includes the category of rabbits, of course, as well as hamsters and so not just rats and mice, but we can do something.
This
so
could be
talk.
huge. Yeah. Okay.
So when we get back to California, we'll
Got
start
it.
brainstorming.
Okay, production meeting scheduled.
Sounds good. It's
Tell our Apple Watches. Not working.
And folks, this is what it's like when we actually get together in Bill's backyard for a barbecue, and he's busy cooking salmon or whatever it is on the grill, and we make silly stories and tell jokes that we can't share here today, which is always fun. But it's so great to have the opportunity to work with these two, and like I said, we've become good friends. We've gone to birthday parties together and things like that. And a shout out to Jennifer over there. She's the maven of the madness behind these two, and give her a big applause if you like It's a Dog's Life, because she's the producer of that and made it all happen. So just really happy that they're good friends. And so I think that's it. I think is that about it? We have about 5 minutes. Bam. Okay. Well, I'll throw it out there to you. Do you have a question about? Michael, do you want to ask them a question?
I mean, Disney on Ice and Disney Live have been staples that we've worked on every year, so I assume and I hope so.
Yeah, we have for 30-some years.
Yeah, no, I think the Feld company is still going strong producing those, so we look forward to working on a few more of them in the future, yeah.
That's a question. We used to do a show even before Feld. I think we did Disney on Parade. Was the name of it. And when I was a kid, we used to go to the sports chalet or sports center and go to these arenas where they would have the shows. And I'm sure it was probably Jimmy McDonald at that time who did the voice of Donald, and then Pinto Polvig, I think, was still at that point still doing the voice of Goofy. And that was so much fun because we called it Disney on Wood.
Yeah,
there was no ice, but it was a big arena, just like an ice show. And it was like an ice show that Herbie would come out and Goofy would get swallowed by the back of the love bug, and we'd have Herbie, and then they would do all the things that they do in these ice shows, but they do them on a hard floor. But I used to go every summer. My mom would take me to those, and I had all the programs and everything. But the characters were some of my favorite parts, and to hear them, recorded, of course. But it was really fun. And so it must be fun to do those ice shows and things too.
Yeah, anytime there's, of course, a whole group of people that portray the characters in the costumes, we only have to do it once and do it correctly. Then we can sit and, of course, at Disneyland, everyone has to march when it's 100 degrees out there, do it over and over, and I think to myself, I've got the best job. I can do it in here.
The ice shows are always, I love the ice shows, don't get me wrong, but I do have one thing that I'm not crazy about, and is that they always refer to it as the ice show read. A lot of times our directors will say, to me at least, they're like, now remember, this is in an arena, it's an ice show read, which basically means scream. I just wish that somebody would acknowledge that they have microphones, and there's no need for Mickey to be, hi everybody, it's great to see you. Like, if he talked on a microphone, it'd be a lot more comfortable for me to voice him that way.
That's a different part of doing the voice, because there are different venues that require a little different performance. The ice shows, because you're in a big arena that's echoey.
Yep.
Where I would normally in a cartoon say, howdy Mick, what's going on?
Yeah.
But for an arena, I'd have to go, howdy Mick, what's going on?
Stop yelling, Goofy, I'm right here.
Well, like
Michael was over there.
As Bill was saying, it's also technically difficult to do these voices, and I know that among, in scripting these voices, there's certain things that Mickey would never say, and there's things that Goofy would never say. I think poor Donald Duck, Tony has probably the hardest thing, because there's words that he can't physically say.
Yes, right.
And so the scripts have to be very carefully written. But these guys have to, every once in a while, I think during a recording, you probably have to say, no, Mickey wouldn't say it that way.
Yeah, and that's something that was kind of expressed to me very early on. It's more than just being the voice. You're kind of a caretaker in a way, and you do have a responsibility.
You know what the character, you got to know the personality of the character, what the character would and wouldn't say, and if you're given something that you know, you wouldn't think you'd say. You have to know how that character would say that,
Yeah.
and interpret it, and that's a big part of the acting job.
Yeah, it's a very collaborative process in that sense. You know, you never walk into a set, or rarely walk into a session where the director or the writer is so tied to the words on the page that when you inject, you know, if you're assuming you're doing the job right, if you say it, like you said, the way the character should say it, then they most likely don't even notice that you kind of tweaked it a little bit. So that, again, speaks to just, you know, really knowing the character. Because, yeah, there's a personality behind it.
Well, thank you. I think that's all of our time. We'll be wrapping this up now, so I want to thank Bill and Bret so much for being part of this and being able to do that. That's great. And they're going to join us now, so I think the next part of our day involves going back over to the guest house at Graceland, where we're going to see a screening. And just a little heads up on this one, it's a very special piece for me. This will be the first time we've shown this documentary on a big screen, so you'll be the first people to see it. And by the time you get done with today, you'll know so much about the Walt Disney Archives that I can ask you to come do press for me next time. So thank you for joining us for that. We're going to duck out real quick, and then Alex is going to give you some housekeeping information.
We'll see you real soon, guys.